Okay, cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today stands at the vibrant crossroads where the psychedelic experience meets the art of design, wielding both as tools for transformative change. Alexandra Plesner, founder of Psychedelic Design, is not just exploring, but actively shaping the intersections of psychedelics, creativity, and holistic design. With a systems thinking approach that considers every element of our increasingly complex world, she has built bridges between visionary thought and practical application, giving life to projects that resonate with a profound sense of purpose and humanity. Her journey began with the co-founding of Psilocybin San Francisco, an educational platform that over the past 2.5 years has become a beacon of informed practices within this burgeoning field. Alexandra's work, however, transcends traditional boundaries, combining her expansive knowledge of design, theory, psychology, and mixed realities to craft futures that are not only more equitable, but regenerative in nature. Alexandra, thank you so much for being here today. Congratulations on South by Southwest. It is a pleasure to talk to you. How are you?
Oh my God, mentioning South by Southwest. Thanks so much for having me and for this insane intro. It's such a pleasure to be here. I don't quite know what to say. I don't know if I can live up to the introduction that you just gave, but yeah, it was quite a ride, and yeah, I'm good. I just can't believe all that happened, especially over the past months. It's been magical, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Psychedelic design. So for those people who may not have know exactly, maybe we could just jump into like psychedelic design. Like I've been to your website, I have spoken with the people with whom you're speaking to, and I think that you're at the forefront of launching sort of your own South by Southwest. Maybe tell people like what is psychedelic design?
Oh, wow. Yeah, like a little bit smaller, just a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm a designer and I ventured into the psychedelic space and simply wanted to understand, as a designer, what can I contribute to the space? And I'm not a neuroscientist, or like I thought I'm just like I have not much to offer. And really from that feeling, I was thinking, all right. So second thing I was doing, I did a second master. So I already have a master in applied imagination from St. Martin's. And then I thought it would be a great idea to follow. Like it was initially, I really wanted to study psychology and arts, but so then I did a master in applied psychology, and I was just really intrigued to learn more about that. How do some or what psychedelics influence your cognition, your behavior, and also creative thinking, maybe problem solving, and so on and so forth. And so I just started psychedelics design basically as a an artifact for my master's. Like I did that with the last master, and I'm just a person who like I love academia, I love research like so much, but I also wanted to apply that to the real world somehow. And yeah, that's how it started. It's somewhere else now. But no, and psychedelic design, I really was interested in exploring what can design do for psychedelics or for the psychedelic space, and what can psychedelics do for design, right? So I'm totally aware this is niche, and now I have like two fields in one somewhat. And I guess I figure it out as I go along. So I'm just yeah, it probably doesn't sound too professional to say I'm winging it from day to day, but that's actually it because I'm just like there is no path for me to follow. So I'm just moving forward, and I'm really grateful for everyone that I've been meeting along the way, and also some of the people whose study I was reading when I was studying, and immensely honored. Yeah, don't quite know what to say. It's been incredible. Yeah.
It's I heard a great quote once, and what you're saying reminds me of it. It's something along the lines of each step reveals the next step. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like as you begin moving on, you're like, and I can't help but think of the idea of faith. Maybe not faith in the religious connotation, but faith in that next step will reveal the next step.
Hmm.
And like, isn't it so true with design? Like if we just look at what you're building, it's like, okay, you've built this platform. Okay, now you're building this other piece on it, and all these engineers are coming on board, and all these artists and craftsmen. It's like, it's for those of us watching, it's so freaking cool to watch and see like what's coming on. You're bringing it into the mainstream, or sort of helping other people begin to see what is possible with psychedelics and design. And it's not just people doing microdosing. It's not just people with PTSD. You are branching out into the world of like architecture, and like maybe you could like, how did that happen? Like how did that next step evolve? Like what happened there?
Um, well, I was really eager to have a first event. I just wanted to bring together, initially it was planned to be just for us, like, like people that
Right.
I know. And I wanted to have like psychonauts and designers who are not necessarily in the psychedelic space come together. And I just wanted to see what happens. And it happened so that I was kindly supported by two people, especially whose work I admired. So Michael Röttgen, who is like an incredible artist, architect, human being, and Paul Austin, who was speaking at Psilocybin San Francisco before, and um, with whom I had conversation around psychedelics, microdosing, creativity, system change. And so I just wanted to see what happens if I bring these people together. And usually I'm very much interested in bringing people together that might not usually, be in a room together, and just see how these conversations evolve. And it evolved really quickly. So I was interested after my first psilocybin trip. I was really interested in, even more so than before, the impact of our environment on us, right? But also the environment, like the impact of a designer on the environment, since we are creating our reality, and since we're creating products, spaces like urban spaces, houses, like the interior to it, like the products we're using every day. And I just had the feeling, it was more of a gut feeling, and from based on my personal experience, first the idea, the hypothesis. Then I went on to mushroom trip simply because I thought I can't build a psilocybin platform with my friend without ever having done psilocybin. So, and from there, I thought if designers are taking specifically something like psilocybin that really makes you feel more in awe with the world around you, and might have like a whole different impact on how you see yourself sitting within nature and what nature actually means, and how you are not a part of nature but part of nature. Mikael said that really nicely in his like just beautifully in his presentation as well. I think I just had the hope that if you have that innate feeling inside you when you are sitting next time in front of your computer or in your studio and create, you might have that somewhere in your subconscious to look for better alternatives than what you're used to. Or you might start asking questions that you have not even thought about before. I mean, the simple fact that for me, I'm not a big meat eater, like, or was not a big meat eater, but after psilocybin, I could not eat any animal products. I could not like when I was coming down of the trip, I could not really feel plastics or certain products. It just felt very wrong. And I just thought maybe this is a side effect that could help us design for regenerative futures, even when we might have unlearned our connection to nature. And that was way before I looked into like what psychedelics do for creativity and how certain psychedelics might help us solve problems differently, where you're sitting on a problem for weeks and months or even years and doing research, and suddenly you might find new connections. It just might help you to look outside of yourself, not only to see personal struggles and a new angle on the trauma that you went through, right? And how big it is, or actually how small it is when you have like that distance view, like that bird-eyed
Yeah.
view. I was thinking maybe like there's also a way of, like a little cheat, maybe even, right? But
Totally.
if you think as children, like we have like a very unique way of solving problems because we do everything for the first time. Now, when we are older, we are very energy sufficient. We are also very much relying on our networks and communities. So we do way things and solve problems how we have been taught to do, right? So I feel like some people stay childlike and have the curiosity. Those don't necessarily are comfortable and fitting in to the world, right? But then these are these misfits that are, you know, viewing the world a little bit different. And I thought maybe with psychedelics, like there is something to it, right? And so it turns out there is as I was digging deeper, but I'm really eager in exploring that more. But I'm totally aware of our, like, we just always want to optimize our productivity, how we perform, how we are seen, like how much money we make, the status where we are sitting within our systems. So that there's so much more to think about, right? Like the accessibility, the safety, the health issues, like the fact that kind of an elite of people have access to the substances that are largely illegal. Like it's
Yeah.
there's like it's a little bit bigger, but I'm just starting somewhere. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and hopefully learning a lot as I move on and as I move through this. So I'm really grateful for having like my first advisors with whom I have regular calls now, who are asking difficult questions, who are bringing back, to planet Earth, and I tend to keep me focused, but also to make me aware of like where who I am, where I sit in the system, and where these psychedelics and plant medicines grow. What's the history? Like how other communities work with it. How can I guarantee that I have certain people speak at my conferences and events?
Yeah.
How can I get like make it like equality like a big topic, accessibility a big topic. The uh, for me, the democratization of knowledge was also with Psilocybin San Francisco really important. I don't think I get it just right yet, but I have ambition.
It's I'm a big fan too of it seems on like large dose or macro dosing psychedelic trips or just altered states of awareness, be it through meditation, we are given access to like the mountaintop and we do have these beautiful ideas of how things can be. And it's real
Mhm.
easy to like to stay there and be like, yeah, and like all of a sudden you surround yourself with, you start thinking about all these wonderful aesthetics and this imaginative world, but you had mentioned that you have advisors that you speak to that kind of bring you back down to earth and they're asking you these important questions. Like, can you share with us maybe like a recent important question that you were talking about that sort of, you know, combined the big ideas with the grounding? Like, maybe you could speak
Mm.
to us how on a question that kind of brought you back.
Um, First of all, I want to mention what Shalain Salazar literally said to me. I was I was really stuck in my own little cell of operating with like how like like, and then me saying like design thinking is bullshit. You can't put the creative process into like some graphs. And then he literally said, "Well, that's not very psychedelic of you." And that really made me think. And I think to bring it down to earth was more of a like there are a million things that I can do, right? And I'm an idea generator. You throw something at me, and my brain is already finding connections, like patterns that like this is what I love, this is who I am. But then it's like it might be difficult to then stay on one topic.
Yeah.
So, for example, since psychedelics are largely illegal, and I was thinking, that they might have us shift towards life-centered design, that
Yeah.
when psychedelics really might influence that we may, prioritize sustainability and empathy in the way we create. that I was thinking, like maybe it is going to lead designers to promote some of the things that psychedelic experiences learn or teach us in our design processes. So one question was, well, psychedelics are illegal. So mostly, how can we eventually influence the design thinking or the design process through psychedelics without yet using psychedelics themselves? And so I came up with this idea of having like sort of like a design process, a design methodology that is based on psychedelic experiences. So what psychedelics can teach us, like from interconnectedness, from an innate creativity, from breaking loose of patterns to empathy, to aiming for regeneration, and not just sustainability, but literally like a coexistence between nature and humanity. And um, so that was like one of the things where I was thinking, okay, cool. There are like several things that are very obvious, right? I'm a designer. I can produce brand work, websites, whatever for the space, right? But that is also very like boring and short-sighted in many ways, right? I mean, it's there is so many designers who are doing this. Of course, I have an understanding of the industry and other industries, right? And um, I've worked before with other companies, so I can bring a lot to the space. But I was actually, of course, what is more complicated? What's more complicated is really, um, can we have psychedelic design inspired principles? Can we use them? What are they? How can we apply them? And then the other one is, what do psychedelics do for problem solving and innovation? And is there a way that we can explore that? And is there a way we can open that to, you know, humans at large and not just to a few? And how can we explore that? So yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, bringing it down, as well as, you know, having my first conference being especially like two, three, four people only. So I was very lucky that I got those speakers that spoke, right? And here was immediately someone saying, well, it's all white middle-aged men.
Ah,
All like men like in their 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Correct. But also I didn't know too many people. I did not want to tap really into a network of Psilocybin San Francisco, wanted to keep that also quite separate, wanted to find new connections that might be closer to psychedelics design, creativity, and not with a full mushroom focus. And I just had to build slow. And then with the second conference, right, that grew. And now with the third conference, a bit more. So like I'm trying to have also new voices and have people who are like, like people have their one topic that they talk about, maybe two. And so I also like those people that talk about, like Paul, about microdosing, maybe mention sustainability, system thinking, system change, creativity, problem solving, and share their thoughts on that. Or have Dennis Walker share his thoughts and perception of the media's influence on how we see psychedelics and how we perceive reality. And even vice versa. So I think like this is so super interesting, and like there's so many things I want to do. Like this time, like at the next conference as well. Like I have only women speak about empathic design, and they never spoke about that before. And I have not like I kind of create conversations that I would have loved to hear, so much to my non-existent ego death. But
yeah.
so I'm really excited about it's new. So I don't know what happens, right? Like I really just don't know. So it might be like a total shit show. And
Got it.
so people when they attend the conference, they don't know what's gonna happen because I don't know what's gonna happen. I just hope for the best. But like this is a great conversation to have. And so there like yeah, there are many like that. And so I think this is what they're helping me, like they're pointing out things that are maybe not quite right, as well as finding a voice, like a bit more critical voice. Psychedelics are not all psychedelics are for everyone at all times. Yeah.
I love it. I do think so. I do think it creates, when you start getting individuals in the room that are very passionate about perhaps a potential one point and they talk with someone else who has another point. It's almost like neuroplasticity on a human connection level, right? Like
Yeah.
you start to make these new connections and the default mode network of old patterns and ideas is turned off. And now you have these people together that are like, hey, what if we process this in Broca's area? Hey, what if we do this in the visual cortex over here? You know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, it's like it's exactly that, and I'm really curious what's going to happen, and I'm really excited that there are so many interested in having these conversations.
Yeah.
Right? I thought I won't get a single person want to speak, frankly, and now I have to say no to people, and yeah. As you can see, I have not been very successful saying no to many people because I have so many speakers. I don't even know how many speakers I have. Um, I'm going to post today probably like some more, and I still speak to two, and I'm trying to be like, where can I squeeze you guys in because it's so cool. I want you to speak too. But like, I'm actually having like one talk. I just pulled up so I'm really sure it's like neuroplasticity and innovation, and really exploring creative problem solving and what Dr. Bruce Damer called the fourth wave of psychedelics. And I was
Mm.
so fortunate to be having a conversation with him and also Matt from Minds. And um, eventually I managed to edit that podcast and launch it. It's going to be like a 2 hour conversation. It's like, it's mind blowing to speak with fellow creatives and designers. I love this conversation so much. I learn so much, and I feel so inspired. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just incredible. And now to have him with Manish Gurn and also Stephanie Carson Abrams talk about that, like the three of them
Yeah.
together. I was just like, imagine them being in one room.
Have have you found some techniques that help? Sometimes it's difficult to have three really incredible people that are really have their own unique ideas on stuff. Like, how do you facilitate that conversation? Like, how do you get them to begin sharing ideas? Does it kind of happen naturally, or are there some ways that you can help foster that discussion between them? Like, how does that work?
I mean, what I do is I introduce them to each other before the
Right,
conference. So
right,
I'm trying to get them all on a call, either with me or without me, whatever they want, just so they connect. But frankly, as I said, I wing it. I don't want to overcraft
right,
things with
right.
like
Yeah,
with other conferences and Psilocybin San Francisco because it was really important that we bring the education across in a very specific way, and like
right.
we needed them to talk about exactly what we needed them to talk about. So it was very like, even I would say micromanaged, like down to the T, what they say and how they say it. But with this conversation, it's a bit more of the Wild West version of the
Yeah,
conference, right? So yeah, I'm just gonna let them talk, but with every like there is also no moderation much. But Floris from Blossom, who is doing the event series with me, like kudos to his calm and patience. Um, I'm so grateful that for him in so many ways. Like he's just an incredible person. So if you guys don't know him yet, check out Blossom. It was like also the website which I used to pull a lot of information because you can actually search for keywords like psychedelics and creativity. But yeah, it's we are in the background and they initially get released to just have the conversation. And usually what just happens with minds like that, right? It's I don't want this curated and they're never gonna be stuck. But we would be there to ask a few questions if they would get stuck. And we're on it and listening to the conversation. And if somebody's really going to be leading the conversation and then there are three others are unable to say a word, then we're just
yeah.
gonna shift that a little bit, right? But that's all we want to do. So it's like, yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
It's gonna be perfect. Like that's so it's so much better to have the conversation flow in a way that is natural. Because what
Mhm.
sometimes what happens is at conferences is that if you do have a moderator, it's hard, it's like a moderator having four individual conversations instead of one giant group conversation where ideas are free flowing and being passed to one another. It's a real art
Yeah.
form, and I think that you're doing it the right way. I think that that's the best way to get it done is to have those ideas just sort of fall out of the imagination and have people get to hold on to them and look at them and hold them up to the light. And it's amazing to me. I'm super thankful for it.
And another thing that I tried last time as well, already in July, which I was trying this time even more so, was to have the like curate the conversation topics and the flow a little bit like a
Smart.
psychedelic journey. So we're starting a little bit
Okay.
more easy, right?
All right.
And soft. And then we have a like more peaking conversations are more challenging maybe and
Yeah.
challenging the norm. And then also like if I look at it, then it's more, well, okay, we kind of close with a banger, but then it's like really about harmonizing, psychology, psychedelics, nature, and technology. And then we have like this conversation around system change, because this is also where you get to after a trip
Yeah.
is a little bit okay. You suddenly have this awareness of how you sit in a system and you're trying to figure out how to make it back to normal realities, right? And so I thought this is nice. And then we have a panel conversation where everybody, like that's what I loved with, and I wanted to do it from day one of our conference series is I have like a panel discussion in the end where all the speakers come together, or actually those who have time, and eventually one or two more people, and eventually like we have audience questions, and then they talk to whatever was the most important topic to them on the day. Because as it turns out, everybody somewhat naturally, like when you are in a group circle, like of people, like in the therapy session or settings, right? Or not therapy, but like literally when you speak, like I had like a women's retreat experience with women on psychedelics, and it was really interesting. And they told me that this happens a lot, like they being like Tian and Jessica, who are the founders of Women in Psychedelics, that when a group of women comes together like that, it seems everybody suddenly has like a tendency towards like one topic that then becomes more like it's so omnipresent. And
Right.
that's very interesting how this seems to naturally align. And that was the same thing with the conferences so far. So again, like for me, this panel is like a circle of all the speakers where we can to get closer to a topic that was important to them. And we might or might not have a meditation towards the end where nobody's going to say anything, because the conferences are also very exhausting
Yeah.
for everyone, also for the listeners, because the topics aren't easy. And I hope every single topic is going to be engaging and something new and fresh, right? And something deeper. Like the people that I have there, like I know them all, and they all have the tendency to ask difficult questions. Like they are all very critical minds and very creative minds and have such a vast range of experience that they bring with them. So it's not going to be an easy walk, right?
Yeah, yeah. You're such a design, like it's so wonderful to me to get to hear like the innate ability to design. You would mention like I kind of want the conference to flow like a psychedelic trip. Like are you sure you don't have a master's in applied linguistics? Like, you know what I think of? You know what it makes me think
Definitely.
of? Like they say, I remember when I was younger, it was like, okay, take your first hit of acid right when Alice in Wonderland comes on, and then they'll flow through the movie. Or you can listen to Jefferson Airplane, that song,
Oh
So
my. Oh, Jefferson Airplane. Oh, love.
so, it's beautiful though. I think it should be like that. I I almost think that I probably shouldn't say. I have a question here. I have a couple questions that kind of came in from my audience previously, and let me just get some out here so that they feel as if they get to be part of this conversation as well. In what ways do you think the psychedelic experience might unlock new dimensions of design thinking, challenging the constraints of conventional creativity?
I don't think creativity can be constrained to start with.
Right.
I would like to challenge that. And then design thinking, it's a process that has been developed, right? To make We have the tendency to do that as creatives, as designers, as business people who were, like the idea of design thinking. Let me just have a think. I just want to quote that if I find it.
Yeah.
But let's just see. I would say since we grew up as children and go through certain experiences in our lives, and that already starts by going to kindergarten and school. We learn ways how we deal with the world and how we deal with certain situations. So creativity and design is not necessarily, or like, art, it's not necessarily a free spirited way of doing things, because we learn this is how you paint certain things, like this is how you draw, this is how you solve certain problems, right? This is like, this is very put the milk in the fridge, right?
Yeah,
And when
totally.
you look at children, it's their wild imagination and their I can do this. And then they try to figure out a way until
Right.
some grown up or some school system or teacher tells them this is not the way, or they should not be dressing like that because they might get bullied because other kids learned that this is not the way in their system or in their society, right? So you start to limit yourself. And I think, and not only that, right? It's also then like the health, like, so much like it's just an individual is just like it's so different from person to person. But if you are able to free yourself from from those limitations, from what your parents told you, what you learned about or you thought you learned about yourself at school, like the picture you have of yourself, the picture you have of the world, right? I mean, it starts with small things like even like culturally. And I know, but in Europe, for example, how we grew up in all these different countries, the culture is so different. And when like even like how we put tiles on the wall, like the way you like the grid is like how do you say like the thing between the tiles,
Yeah, the grout.
you can tell where who put that together, if it was like Portuguese system or if it was English or German or Italian, right? Also how the tiles are painted, like all of this. And then it's also just things that we get taught from our parents, like when you brush your teeth, do you turn the water off or do you let it run, right? And I had a discussion with a friend from Italy with whom I was traveling, and she let the water run while brushing her teeth and washing her water. So it was running, running, running. And I asked her why she's not turning it off. And she was just like, well, I have to turn it on anyway again. I'm like, yeah, but meanwhile, you can preserve some water. She's like, yeah, but we're not in the desert. We have enough water. I'm like, but that's not the point, right? It's like, um, but I think maybe it helps us get out of how we grew up, right?
Right.
And suddenly you immediately feel, oh, water. I should be really grateful for what water does. Like, my body is water. Like, not many people have access to water that has drinking quality. Like, you can just get it out of the tap at any time.
Yeah.
And maybe that makes you then think, huh, like this is like I don't take this for granted anymore. And maybe then you're thinking, okay, when I design this, how can I design it better? For example, I was just going for a walk around my favorite lake, and I was sitting down, and there was these filters of cigarettes on the floor. And it's like, first of all, I'm like, I'm like, well, why would you go smoke cigarettes and you go for a walk for fresh air? But anyway, I was just like there, and like was like, why would you, like? And these are also people that then complain that it's dirty. It's like in a million years, it would never occur to me to throw chewing gum on the street or like the cigarette filter on the street. But people don't even know or think, like they have not been even educated sometimes, like what this does to the environment. They haven't thought about it, but then maybe they think about it. But not only that, maybe the person who is making those filters might come up with an idea, or like the companies will be forced to maybe from systems and people think like asking for it, or maybe designing filters for cigarettes that are not um, negatively impacting our environment. Like it's not just, you can't just put the responsibility on the user, right? And I think as
Right.
designers, we have the responsibility to think about these things and try to find solutions. But of course, this is not that easy, and it's, of course, you still need to answer to your boss, and you can't just say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm doing it that way. It's like 3 times more expensive, but who cares, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult question to answer in one sentence, and I'm anyway, as you know now, not good in answering questions in one sentence.
No, it's
But
beautiful. It's a wonderful answer.
yeah, but what I said before is about this idea of life-centered design. So I think maybe um, design thinking is very logical. I think, and people build a whole system around that human-centered design approach and that human-centered design methodology. But maybe we can now think more of a, life-centered design methodologies, right? Where maybe the process is similar and like, it's all about just research, inspiration, then the iteration, then you prototype, and then you test. I mean, I don't think that would need a system for any designer. Like that's just kind of what you do, right? You have an idea, you research, you build something, you keep researching, you test it, you alterate it. Like that's just a normal design process, but maybe you can bring other aspects to it. And so I'm just starting to build that, and like by having conversations with others. It's like, and what I learned at my first university was, I mean, I was a child like that, always asking questions, always. And you know what, you get the answer from grown-ups because we've always done it that way, because it's
Yeah.
always been that way. It's like, why? But so the answer was, you know, because
Right.
I said so.
Ah!
And that's not, and
A horrible answer.
um, at St. Martin's, at my course, we always had to frame questions. And that's also how psychedelic design started. And these questions are always changing. And I think that's hopefully a healthy way of doing it. We will see how it turns out.
Yeah. It's I can't help but see the relationship with uncertainty and the ineffable. Like in a psychedelic journey, like sometimes you have this moment of clarity, but you can't speak it. Like you can't put it into words. Like, oh, that's it. Ah, I forgot what it was. You know what I mean? Like you can't, like it's still there. And maybe those three-dimensional Mandelas, or maybe that's those objects that we see are a language to hold space in our mind, to hold that idea space or something like that. But it sounds to me like we are coming upon a change in consciousness or a change in design thinking that doesn't really have a linguistic pathway. Like we're not sure how to create these giant changes that are contagious between the user, the end user, and the boss. We're not sure how to bridge this gap between productivity, profitability, and environmentally safe. Like, but I think we're moving in that direction. Do you
Hmm.
see this sort of design change or this spot that we're in right now, maybe this fourth wave of psychedelics as being like a new opening to create or a linguistic jump or something along those lines? Are we moving into a new paradigm where we can make these changes?
Well, I do hope so, but I'm also very much a romantic. I do have to confess I tend to romanticize things. So
Oh,
from that point of view, and that, the fairy tales I grew up with, that would be
right.
wonderful, right?
Yeah.
But then I also see humans make the same mistakes over history. So, I mean, that's just also part of the learning process. And you can't just arrive at that big change.
Right.
Like, it's like small steps over time, then eventually lead to big epiphanies or big change, right? So
Right.
it's like patterns like break maybe from one day to the next, but then new behavior and new ways of thinking and doing need to be implemented. That's why integration coaching is such a big topic and so important. It's not going to be a process of 2 or 3 days. Like I'm getting out of
Yeah.
the psychedelic experience and now I know it all. It also depends on what experience, as I said before, right? And why you do it, how you do it, when you do it, with whom you do it. There's so much.
Yeah.
But I would encourage I really like to encourage actually these conversations also with other creatives and designers as much as we can to see if we can shift something and to just keep iterating the design principles that I'm trying to birth here. There's like one company and person that I admire like the most for years, and I'm sure you heard of her, is like Mary Oxman.
Mhm.
And she had like big influence on me, like the Krebs cycle of creativity. It's like, and also the new products that they just launching, like from Eden. Like I really love the idea of like that it was very academic and very research heavy, and now they have been moving into, and I hope I don't say like I hope I don't do her justice with my words at all, I would say, but not just the ideation of what is possible and then applying these wild ideas to some material testing, but now also making like small scale new systems and test that and see. And if that's functioning, you could apply that to a larger scale. And that's just what I'm talking about also. It's like really designing with nature. Like nature is just another designer sitting in the room with you. Yeah. Forgot what it was called. Like I was trying to look it up, but never mind. But this is just I think something that we need to learn and understand also, like we are using emails, we're using Instagram, like as startups and founders, content creators, marketers, brand marketers, designers, there's so much time and effort spent in generating ideas, the content, and having an artist work on it or a graphic designer mostly, but now also replaced by Mid-Journey's image where you can see them everywhere popping up. And then you load it into the system that exists. Instagram, we are using it as well. It's still like a nice tool to, like reach a certain audience and build a certain community and show off your work and see if it resonates, what doesn't. But the vast amounts of energy that these systems that we created to make our lives comfortable use, like largely overlooked. We don't think about it. We don't know it. When we know it, we don't know what to do about it or against it. So I think, yeah, sure, this is gonna help. I hope it
Yeah,
does. I don't know. I will know in a few years if I arrive at something that is going to be meaningful and having meaningful impact.
I think I think you're already pulling up to the house of meaningfulness. Like you've already brought all these people and there's all these bridges coming together and these new ideas where if you can just shift something small, it can have large repercussions later in life. It's like that stone in the pond, right? Sometimes just changing a view of something can have a radical
Mhm.
effect on that. Which brings me to another question from one of our listeners is how can systems thinking, when
Mm.
combined with psychedelics, help us reimagine the relationship between the natural world and the human-made environments?
Love that. It's a beautiful question, which hopefully gets like a few more like incredible souls talk about that at the
Right?
event. Like those people should definitely visit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I talked with Rad Seraj about that as well. He's one of the advisors. I'm so grateful for him. He's like, when we create anything, we create everything from within the box that we're sitting in, right? So it's going to be very difficult to design something new while we are still where we are. So we got to look out of this box to get a little bit of an idea what else could be done, right? And then start to iterate, prototype, and test out here. But then you still need to be able to communicate these wild ideas and things that you create to the rest of the world that is in that bubble. And it's just not only one bubble, there are like several bubbles for cultures, and so on and so forth. Countries, cultures, all of that. So everywhere is just going to be like having like a sneak peek out of that box, trying to do something new and fresh. But the problem is also when you do that, you might not have the audience yet. So there's always a constant communication between the two. So that's why I'm also saying it is a process that is going to be having impact over time, as with all the new ideas. All the new ideas eventually have been born too early, maybe sometimes, you
Yeah.
know. So look at Leonardo da Vinci, what he was able to imagine and engineer, at least in theory, but like no way people would have been able to apply that. If you just like think of the idea of women being allowed to vote, that was so alien for so many people, that women are humans as well. And for us, this is just so normal, but for other cultures, it still might not be that case, right? Like, so, and I hope that the more some people experience psychedelics, the more new ideas have a space to grow somewhat. But then I also learned that, yeah, again, like this, like I'm hopeful that this is not going to be only accessible for a certain elite, but, you know, psychedelics are able to like make things stronger, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
So when we think of especially like psilocybin, for example, being non-specific amplifiers,
Mm.
and humans are good and bad. Like there's not gonna be like we all take psychedelics and we all just gonna amplify the good. That's just not going to happen. So like I'm a little bit thinking also, what if we just bring everything by accident to the extreme, the good and the bad? So like it's all about the balance yet again. So yeah. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
like narcissism is not gonna be cured by somebody taking a bunch of psychedelics. On the contrary, like some dark personality traits are just going to be emphasized eventually. Maybe not, but for some people, yes, they are, So that's why I'm like, yeah, these are super, super powerful tools. Not all of them, equal, but I think we just need to not just experiment widely and just put all our hope into one thing, just one of many.
Yeah. It's wonderful. It's beautifully said. I sometimes when I think about, you spoke about some of the great designers of the past being way ahead of their time or ideas being born too early. Like I can't help but see the metaphor of like a seed and or a flower. Like on some level, do we do we just need time? Like if you look at this giant class of like a boomer generation who are still hold a lot of power and a lot of sway, these are the same people that told me, "Hey, do it because I told you so." Hey, we have to do these reasons because that's what I was taught. Is it like a flower and like you just have to wait for August 23rd at 2:34 p.m. when the sun is right for the flower to fold open? Like, do we have to just wait for our species to mature? Like maybe some of the boomers who are knocking on the mortality experience, like maybe their ideas fall away with them when they move on to whatever comes next, and then these new ideas can be born.
Everybody can learn all the time. Like my dad was significantly older than my mom as well, and he had like certain viewpoints on the world until we had a few more conversation, and he changed some of the ways like he was thinking and perceiving the world, right?
Right.
And I don't think it's just going to be falling away, but I also don't think there is a certain time of the day where everything is going to blossom. But I think maybe some lucky accident happens, and instead of like those 10 flowers around that one flower being like, what the hell are you doing here? One of them will be saying, no, actually, I quite like that. And then
Yeah.
eventually some of the others gonna risk a second look and might like that too. I don't know if that makes sense, but I
Yeah.
think, and so slowly but surely, this is just how things changed.
Right.
I'm
Right.
sure people have been thinking about the first phones, something very alien. And the first electric light must have been really weird. I'm sure not everybody thought this is a great thing,
Yeah.
right? And again, it was only like for a few that then have been able to increase their productivity and have been able to work and do things also when others were still sitting in the dark because they couldn't even afford a candle. So I think this is just something to compare with innovations that happened before and tools humanity used and produced before in some way.
Yeah.
That's why I love like also these like when I hear of like conferences and retreats that in the psych space where you can buy a ticket forward or like you get like the retreat visit gifted, but you have enough money to be like, okay, I'm just gonna buy somebody whom I don't know. They're like the chance to go on this retreat eventually, right? Or go to enjoy that therapy. It's like when you go into a cafe and you see there is somebody. It's like, of course, a personal story, but you hear that there is a person who, an older gentleman who always comes to that cafe because he's a part. He lived in that street in San Francisco for like since 1962, and he can't quite afford the heating and his flat is really small, so he hangs out in this cafe all the time. And then you hear about that and you just pay 20 coffees forward, so for the next 20 days this guy has his coffee on you. Don't know, like
Yeah.
small things sometimes can help. I don't know. it's
Yeah.
it's just a thought, and I love when I hear that people do that, like when there
I do
are
too.
scholarships available. And I think this is something where the psychedelic space especially can show what also unity over competition, for example, looks like, or like helping each other out. And I think as far as I experienced it now, that's very much the case. And I think that's absolutely beautiful how people support each other and build each other up. So rather than tear each other down.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm hopeful it's contagious. I'm hopeful it becomes as contagious as a contagious. I don't know. I hope it becomes contagious because I think it's something that can obviously make the
Yeah.
world better, right?
Look at the Global Psychedelic Society and what they have been doing and how they're helping now societies around the world to be like,
Yeah,
okay,
yes.
you want to do this? This is how we
Yeah,
did it. You
right.
know, we can show you if you like, and maybe some of that is useful for you. Like, this is a really beautiful way. Like, I mean, we could
Yeah,
do that on a bigger scale for other systems and other things as well. Like, one country really figured out a good way of reusing water or like dealing with certain like with trash or so. And so like other cities and countries can take a peek, get an explanation how they done it, and then evolve it. I don't know. Yeah.
no, it's wonderful. Like, what do you think makes an idea contagious? Is it like a perceived idea of success, or like what is it that makes the ideas contagious?
Hmm. It's communication a lot. So I think I should talk with Dennis about that, Dennis Walker,
Yeah,
a lot,
he's
or
amazing.
Jennifer Cheswick, um,
Yes.
or yeah, or Zoe Wilder. But I think they can tell you a big deal about how our opinions have formed and how ideas become contagious. It's sadly a lot to do also with like, you can read in history around marketing about propaganda
Yeah.
in many ways, right?
Right.
Yeah. I
Right.
think this
It's
is
interesting.
how we change narratives and how it might, for the better or the worse.
Right. Here's another question coming in. It says, in what ways might augmented and virtual reality combined with psychedelics create new pathways for therapeutic experiences, art, or even education? Could this be the future of immersive healing and learning?
Wow. Okay, I'm just gonna say a few sentences to that, but in fact, I could talk for hours on that. That's exactly the subject of my master's thesis.
Yeah, imagine that.
So whoever wants to talk more about that, like, but also again, it's probably not me. It's probably people like Agnieszka Sikula, like, um, they're doing that on a daily basis. Like I just was interested. But yes, I think XR technologies are super interesting. And as technologies evolve, like this is definitely going to be the case. And I'm super excited. Like I love that shit. I don't want to go like too deep into that, but for
Yeah.
sure, because if you see how already virtual reality experiences have been seen to help with certain situations and fears, for example, and the technology isn't even that great yet, right? Um, but again, it's as exciting as it's dangerous to alter with the mind like that. But of course, I'm super interested in exploring that more. I was mostly interested in to understand if we could bring nature to those who are not able to access nature through these experiences into the room. But I was also interested in the idea of how alien it sometimes feel as if you as a patient walk into a room with to your therapist and have conversations even after a psychedelic experience, right? I'm not so sure about applying these technologies during a psychedelic trip, but maybe for the come down and maybe afterwards.
Right.
Because, think about you could, for example, go into that room and you can invite the therapist to come into your space, makes you already feel safer.
Right.
And I had the thought that maybe we can bring nature around you in any space, like wherever you are. So it's going to have significant impact and it's going to make it accessible for sure to people that otherwise might not have the availability. I think it also might make it more affordable to some. So very excited to see what's like new in that space. Um, but yeah, I think great conversations to have in art, of course, because art doesn't need to function. So at the forefront, you can just experiment, bring your ideas out there into the wild and see what happens. You know, I'm excited to see what's new in XR and what people showcase also at South by Southwest next year. Really excited.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about that a whole lot. You have a you and a whole amazing team of people are going out there. I think you and Dennis and Caesar, and there's another phenomenal designer whose name is currently escaping me.
Carly,
Thank you so much, Carly Dutch Green, incredible
yeah.
individual. Yeah, so how did that come together? Maybe you could just shine some light on that.
Um, I don't know. No, it just naturally came together. No, like as I said before, I invited Dennis to talk about the influence of media um, on us and our opinions. It's like something that I looked into extensively myself through some experiences with my with the old design agency normally that I worked for, based in London. And we had conversations, also Carla and myself, with Caesar, simply
Yeah,
sometimes like two of us, but not ever all of us, about how design and media and visual design, like actually what you just ask or your audience asked, how we communicate ideas, how we influence opinions, and so on and so forth. And so um, it was actually Carly who took the lead because she and I wanted to apply to speak together as we did before. We were like, um, our skill set really balances each other out and also our personalities quite nicely. And so I was like, yeah. And she's like, okay, why we are not gonna talk with, Dennis and Caesar? Are you up for it? And I was like, okay. And this is literally how it went. Um, yeah. And fortunately, we got picked. And I
nice.
actually have to say, I'm honored that I will be speaking another time, like a second time, with Joe Moore from Psychedelics Today, um, about psychedelics design and innovation, especially in regards to regenerative futures and designing better futures. Um, yeah, and I
Designing
can't
better.
bail out because Carly's
Yeah.
gonna find me. Yeah,
It's gonna be a wild ride. You're gonna have a lot of fun, and I look forward to it. I know other people are looking forward to it.
Thank
It
you.
should be an interesting time, not only for you to have the discussions in front of the panel, in front of the group of people, but I bet you stumble upon some amazing conversations behind the scenes as well.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm always scared about these get-togethers, like so many people, so many conversations. But once I start talking about design or creativity or any of these things or technologies or nature or art, I forget about my fears. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you for your kind words and your encouragement all the time. It's been like, yeah, it's really, I really appreciate that. When I'm not sure, not certain, or like, what are you doing? And then someone like you comes along and you're like, you mentioned on LinkedIn, like, hey, like Alex just did that. And I was like, oh my God, but okay, yeah, I keep going.
yeah,
Yeah. So thank you.
yeah,
So
of course. Sometimes it's I heard another great quote that was something along the lines of, and I should know the person that said it, but it's what an incredible gift it is to get to see people the way others see us. Sometimes we need that. Sometimes we lose a little bit of faith in ourselves and we need a friend or we need someone who may see things differently to be like, look at how amazing this is. And it sort of shines a shimmer on something maybe you didn't see before. Like, look at that. Oh yeah, I never saw that reflection. Or yeah, and it just kind of reevaluates or helps you it just kind of helps you understand how the world may see it, and it gives you that little push that you need to shine bright out there, I think.
again, it's the outside perspective, right? You're right.
Yes.
It helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have not quite digest. Like a colleague called me. I think they spoke yesterday, and she was like, "So how are you feeling now, Alex?" I'm like, "I don't know.
Yeah.
It hasn't, like the sand
Right.
has not. How do you say that? Settled? Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I don't think you want it to
Sure.
settle. I think you want those little gold flakes to be flying around in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be like dazzling and like you may have to call an audible at the last minute and change out a few words and like it's gonna be those words with like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm excited, and like every day working on this project has been,
Yeah.
and I'm working on it every single day. Like there has not been one day where I did not do it. Like even when I say I didn't do it, and I still end up at least for an hour or two. And it's been yeah, it's very fulfilling. It's a hobby at the moment, but it's great. Yeah, I'm grateful that I can do that. That I found something that is so aligned with who I am.
Yeah, and I'm grateful you're doing it too. I think it helps. Like and it gives me something to look forward to. I love to see all the people coming. I love to see all the things that are setting up. I love to see all the conversations that are happening. I know it's not just me. It's people in my audience. It's people that I talk to, and I'm glad that you have chosen to dedicate so much passion to it because it shows and it helps. And maybe that's what makes ideas contagious is that particular aspect of it. And
Maybe too, yeah.
yeah,
Somebody loving something and so they just do it for the sake of doing it. That's what, like, initially somebody
yeah,
asked me, why did I do psychedelic design? I said, well, because I felt inspired to do so. Like, there was
yeah,
just no real reasoning behind it from the get-go. Was just felt right. Um, yeah. Also for next year, I mean, I just started. Can I mention the design awards?
yeah. Of course. Are you kidding me? Mention it all.
Because it was a bit of a bummer with everything that went down in August, and I just wanted to do a design award anyway because I dreamt up the idea of the Mushroom of the Year award just because I liked the sound of it. And so I called into life a design award only for the psychedelic space, where of course most is not psychedelic legal or not even psychedelic, even at all. But I just really curious to see who applies and what projects will be shown. And I have like incredible judges again to help me out and to make like they make the decisions. I'm not gonna make the decisions. Like we're gonna choose three finalists, like or they choose them. I will communicate them through Psychedelics Design, and then the audience is going to choose the winner. So this is going to be really exciting for next year, and I'm glad to already start the year with something, at least for me, and I hope for some people in the industry as well, with something fun and exciting, and hopefully also affordable for most. And if I have to gift a million applications, then so be it.
Yeah.
You know, and then everybody just gets a nice little printout instead of an award object. But it's just really hopefully something that inspires everyone around me and people around to just celebrate creativity and innovation also in the space. Because so
Yeah.
many times we see a startup and everything looks great, but nobody thinks about that graphic designer that sat there for hours on end and weeks to come up with that idea and with those visuals, for example, or to design the space. And not even to talk about the years of education and experience that went before they were able to birth that. And so I really hope that some companies will apply and give credit to the designers who did the work or the creatives, but also the founders who came up with ideas, but also students who have a concept, but maybe not the funding yet to make that into a reality. But I hope that maybe if the concept, like somebody shines a light on the concept, they might be able to get the funding to make it into reality or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's beautiful. And there's a lot of different categories you have for awards too. Some
Yeah.
categories that people may not think, but like it's such a great way to sort of raise a flag for people to see each other or raise their hand and
Yes,
see,
exactly. I
right?
hope so. Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
And I love the graphic design I did for that. I have to say that. It's so rare that I'm in love with something that I design. And of course, I find a million small mistakes, right? That the date is not properly
Sure.
aligned with the letter that came before. Yeah, like I have a friend, and I was like, oh, look at that. And she's like, yeah, but can you see that? I was like,
Shaking your
I
fist at him. I see
know,
it.
I know. I
Just tell
I
him it's
haven't deleted
perfect.
it
I
yet.
meant to do that. That's all that's supposed to be there. You're right.
No,
And you make
people
it.
know me. And others designers can see that kerning bullshit that I was pulling out there. So it's
That's
like,
supposed to
yeah.
be there.
But overall, with the distance, from the, distant point of view, it's
Right.
fine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some other particular awards that you're excited for? Obviously graphic design, but I think you have one for architecture. I think you have
hmm
a lot of cool different designs that people may not be aware of. Maybe you could just talk about a few other ones that you're excited about.
Let me look them up. So I don't
Yeah,
forget.
please. Let's
No,
hear
I
them.
mean, I was trying to make like not too many categories. And I had help there with some of the judges already, because I have like a group of judges that will not look at specific categories, but all the entry applications overall. So, like there's not somebody able to move forward with the application who maybe should not be, like who did something wrong or, is wrongdoing or, does something illegal, like not grayscale, but very illegal. And so I thought from different categories, like one is just very clear, like visual design and branding. So I put that into one category because the space is really small. And then storytelling. So that could be newsletter, that could be a great article written, but also a book, So I want to see that a little bit more broader, but also how maybe an organization is telling the story of a certain psychedelic, like an educational institution, and products and services. And I think I'm still also like feeling like I'm educating, like because I'm not speaking to designers all the time here, right? So I think the a challenge for me is that I'm speaking to people who take psychedelics and also people who have never taken psychedelics, to
Yeah.
designers, but also marketers, founders who don't speak design language. So when I talk about service design, interaction design, UX, UI, I know all the different nuances, but to a founder, it's a web designer, or it's like a
Yeah.
graphic designer, and branding or brand identity or icon design or typography is all one. So I'm like having to, and I hope it's understandable to most, but I have like products, which is like the actual product. It could be digital or physical, but also service, which is a service offering, which is like integration coaching, for example, or like, things like that, like a service is also like a design service, a service how people move through an app, for example, like it's for example, you don't just buy the product, but there's a service integrated that makes the product accessible and understandable and so on and so forth. Then education and community impact, which I think is super important for the industry and for everyone out there. Education first in so many ways. And audio experience, of course, music and sound and how it influences our experiences, right? But also podcasts are something also maybe more experimental. And then, as you mentioned, architecture and space, because how do we design retreat centers, clinics, therapy centers, like, and but also, as we spoke about, in that category, I'd also put VR, AR, XR, like spaces that are not our common reality. So it's very broad. And then I put, because there are always things that don't fit anywhere else, I put experimental up there. So like, you might have a crazy idea that doesn't fit anywhere. I still want it to be able to be seen and shown. And then I have the mushroom of the year, which will be nomination only. So you can't apply for the mushroom of the year. Like I will foster that people can be nominated next year. So this is like without an application fee, and people can just be nominated, and some person who did something extraordinary will win. And I do hope to see a lot of voices that are not the voice that you always see and hear. Like, like have like a great mix of people. And so far, I have not I announced the awards, but we have not done much communication around it. And still, I have a few applications, and it's a really interesting mix of companies and individuals, and also a handful of students. Because I had like a free day for student applications, I had a free day for startups. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that's unique too, to see sort of a student competing with a large corporation. Like that's such
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful way to level the playing field and garner respect among the different divisions that are out there. You know what I mean? Like both people can look at that and be like, that's amazing. That's amazing. It's sort of
Mm-hmm.
bringing us together in a way that's scientific and spiritual.
Yeah, I first thought maybe we do like a student category, but then I thought, yeah, everything is new and innovative in that space.
Right, right.
So why do we need to put students in an extra category? Just because they might have looked at that for 3 weeks, but maybe in those 3 weeks, with what they know before, like who they were before, that idea is just so brilliant. So it can so easily compete with somebody else who has been in the industry for 10 years, you know,
Right.
compares to people who are like, okay, who are you? Because you only took psychedelics for 1 year and I have been in the space for 10 years. It's also something, that I have to face and that others face
Yeah.
in that industry too. And like both has their relevance, and so when you bring that together, I think then you can create something better.
So do
Yeah.
you, like, if you know, forecasts are hard, especially forecasts about the future. However, do you see the potential for like some incubators or some online classes or maybe some partnerships down the line with psychedelic design and people that sort of want to be around in that area?
Yeah.
Okay, imagine that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, have had like a few conversations along those lines already, and partnerships and collaborations. And
Right.
yeah, very excited to explore and see what actually is going to be birthed next year from all the ideas. So again, trying to keep it simple.
Right.
But yeah, as well as design collaborations. I'm very excited to actually do some fun design collaborations and maybe exhibitions and showcases with other companies in the space, but also outside of the space, right?
Yeah,
Just
of course.
just move things around and, as you said, like spread the ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very excited about that. And so we'll see. I keep you posted.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know. Um, Alexandra, you've been incredibly gracious with all of your time today. Like I'm super thankful to get to speak to you, and it's always an engaging, fun conversation. I always feel like I get to learn more, and I'm really excited about the conference. And before, maybe we could just, I don't even know if we told the dates to the people. Like you and I have been having such a cool conversation. Like,
I
when
don't
is
know.
it coming up? Like, where can they still find tickets? Like, maybe just let's talk about that for a moment before we close out.
Good point. I don't think I mentioned it. It's on the 11th of December and it starts in the morning, PST time. And yeah, you can find the tickets on psychedelics.design.
Right,
So that's the website. I mean, via that, I sell it through Eventbrite because it's easy.
right,
And yeah, tickets are still available. They're $28. I mean, I have supported tickets, but this is just a let's cover the basic cost idea.
yeah,
And yeah, there's just not much to say. The same with the awards. Awards is ongoing.
right.
Applications are still open until the 17th of February. And also people can find all the details on the website and can apply through the website. And there is now an early bird until the 16th of November. But again, as I said, if anybody can't afford neither, they can just contact me and then I can see what I can do, of course. Even though we don't have like an official big scholarship system because we're tiny. So,
Yeah,
but everybody can just join in. Why not?
yeah. Yeah, I hope everybody goes down and just some of the speakers in the same room together, I think is worth it. Like there's so much cool conversation that's gonna happen from there. And I think it'll be something that people maybe in the next generation can look back to and be like, oh, let's listen to this like 5 years ago, or let's listen
Oh
to
my
this
God,
when
can you imagine?
yeah, I totally
I'm
can.
definitely not even listening to this podcast. It's just not gonna happen. I don't want to know what I said. No. Oh, one thing I want to mention, everybody gets the
Yeah,
recording to the conference as well.
yeah.
Because I'm one of these people who is buying tickets and then after 2 hours, my system, I'm just like too overwhelmed and then I have to watch some of
Mhm.
the stuff later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to mention that. But thank you so much for making so much time for having me and making this happen. For all these amazing questions that were sometimes easy, sometimes not to answer.
Yeah.
I hope people get something out of this. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I think
appreciate it.
I got tons, and I know the people that listen to this podcast are going to be super stoked. And I hope everybody within the sound of my voice goes down to the show notes and clicks on the links to check out more of what you're doing, to reach out to you if they have any questions
Yeah.
or thoughts, or they have ideas that are worth talking about. You're such a cool person to talk to, and I know that anybody can just click on that button and reach out to you because you're willing to help people and you're doing an amazing job. I'm super thankful for it. I'm super stoked for your success coming up and all the partnerships you're building. And yeah, thank you so much for today, ladies and gentlemen. That's all
Thanks.
we got. Yeah, perfect.
I speak to you soon, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I hope you have a
Bye.
beautiful day. Okay.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.